In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the record, the Suburbanite and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. For the record, we have our quorum. Councilman Barzalato is expected. Councilman Stefanowicz is ill, and Councilwoman Hayter is out of the country. So,
He sends us remarks.
so first we'll start with public comment. This is a work session. We are going to have a very brief public meeting in order to get some business done that is required at a public meeting. Just be a 2-minute meeting. That will take place after the work session, and then of course we have a closed session. So any public comment on any item at all? No? Okay. We have with us Chief Chamberlain. Why don't you join us at the table, Chief? We have 2 items. The first is the question about the parking situation on Hillside. And I know we talked at this table, perhaps one of the potential solutions was to eliminate parking from County Road up past New Street on the north side.
Past it or to it?
Well, to it. I mean,
Okay,
there's really only space for 1 or 2 cars.
2 cars.
Although there is a habit of people parking half on the street and half, by that driveway.
The driveway aprons, correct.
Anyway, what do you have to say about
Well,
that?
as you indicated, there's room for 2 spots to park between the driveways. Probably the most common people that park there are actually employees of DNC Honda. DNC Honda, I've been in contact with Dorf's, and they're always very concerned about the limited parking in town. And Dorf has come to me about something options and what can we do. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of answers for him. Something. And when it comes to parking regulations restricting it, we'll always try to be very careful about trying to eliminate it, reduce it when there's not ample parking to begin with. When it comes to sight distances, it's a T intersection, so there's not really any intersecting traffic that is actually being obstructed by that. The setback from County Road is past the gas station, so we're not talking about having interference with County Road traffic. There could be a problem with the driveways, but the driveways that belong to DNC, and usually people that park there are their employees, so they're not complaining. If anything, does it make the road a little more narrow at times? Yes, but there's still ample room for 2-way traffic to travel through there. With the 2 vehicles that park there, I don't really see the problem unless they're encroaching on the yellow painted areas, which we're not seeing a lot of. I'm just curious as to who actually made the request to eliminate parking there.
It was during public comment, but
Okay.
on the other hand, I'm pretty familiar with that. First of all, I have to take into account that traffic backs up on Hillside for the light.
Right.
Okay? Now you have cars coming up Hillside, and quite often it's very difficult because the cars that are waiting at the light are not against the curb, and you got parked cars on the other side. Now you add into that mix 1 or 2 vehicles that are parked where we're talking about.
Right.
And I'll tell you, first of all, I patronize that BP station. Coming out of that station, if there's cars parked just east of that, the 2 spaces we're talking about.
Correct.
It can be rather difficult. Next.
Yeah, and if you have those cars parked, especially if they are taller cars,
Right.
completely blocks the view of the intersection.
I'm sorry, coming out of the gas station or the intersection?
No, coming down on Highwood
Right.
down, yeah.
Right.
No, Hillside.
Hillside, I'm sorry, Hillside.
right.
It completely blocks the view of the intersection, and sometimes I think it makes it like a blind intersection.
Well, that intersection is controlled by traffic lights, so traffic traveling making a left turn onto Hillside from County is actually doing the green light. So the view has nothing to do with it because those vehicles are governed by a traffic light. If you talk about coming out of the gas station, that's a different story.
The gas station too.
Now you have that large driveway apron that belongs to DNC, and when no one's parked there, that provides a setback. Honestly, is something, if we want to eliminate it, I'm not opposed to it. It's only 2 spots that we're taking out of there. So I mean, would it make some improvement for the 2-way traffic? Yes. The sight distance thing, I don't necessarily agree with, but it would alleviate some of the congestion in that area.
I think the only time there's really a sight distance problem is if you're pulling out of the gas
Yeah,
station.
exactly, to get the
And you wanna
traffic.
make a left.
Right.
But I think it's a, you know, it's a congested area, it really is, and I don't like eliminating parking spaces, but there's only two, and they're not taken all of the time, but I think, I think it's a good idea, but, I bow to your judgment, you're the professional.
Who uses those parking spaces now? Honda?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
Honda,
all Honda. It could be
anybody can
Honda, it
use
could be
them.
somebody,
They're
it could be
not
someone who
restricted.
works downtown, someone who's shopping downtown that uses something, or even the church also.
90% of the town is DNC Honda.
On that little quadrant, yes.
Yes, absolutely, there's no question about
Yes.
that.
It's American Services.
All right, you'll let us know what you decide, okay?
Correct.
Just shoot us a memo when you make a decision. So the other thing is before you go to Franklin Lakes,
Yes.
give us a little background as to what brought how this came in as a point of discussion.
Quite honestly, something that was Councilman Park who brought to my attention. Councilman Park reached out to me something and asked if I had seen it. I had not. I think it was you that had forwarded to me.
Yeah.
They got it from someone.
Was that forwarded to
And
me?
I had obviously seen it's a one-page document, and then since then I had spoken to the chief, Carmen Pizzuti from Franklin Lakes in person about it. He had told me something that his original, let me back up. The town had come to him, I guess, to ask something. What can we do, in our endeavor to try and limit, reduce drug abuse and things of such. So he came up with a 2-page draft, something that he thought could be useful. They ended up taking a very small section of his draft and placing it into this 1-page resolution. He said that the borough attorney up there, they had a lot of questions and they had gone back and forth, and this is what they felt was best suited for them, and what you also have too before you is the end result. To me, and I've spoken to Bill about this. We spoke about this on the phone. It's vague. Now I don't know if the vagueness was by design, so they're trying to actually fall into any pitfalls. But with that vagueness, Bill and I feel like something that there are issues. And right before the meeting, I forwarded you an email with an attachment of the Overdose Prevention Act that actually Governor Christie put out in 2013. I have 3 copies here. I like to save papers, so I sent it to your email
Fine.
for reference purposes for anyone who wants it. But
Chief, you said this was a resolution, so it's not a matter of law?
that is correct. Actually, something it's. Bill, you want to?
Yeah, I was gonna say, the Franklin Lakes Police adopted this policy. It wasn't something that was done by way of ordinance or anything, and I have it. That's what I was actually just trying to pull up on my computer, but unfortunately, I can't access my email from here.
What do you want? You want
Their policy, not the resolution. I have, the resolution basically quotes a part of the
Okay,
policy,
okay.
but they actually have a policy that is not binding, but it's just supposed to be the way I guess their method of operation, things like that.
But can a
The-
resolution like that
It-
be challenged in court as being opposed to the law?
Well, I think that's the problem, Max. The problem is that that if you interpret the policy and the resolution as saying that the police will not charge criminal charges for what in essence is a criminal offense, well, that's a problem. That's beyond the authority of, certainly of the mayor and council. And the police can't change the law, the police enforce the law. They have some discretion in enforcement, but you can't pass an ordinance that trumps state law.
So there's no ordinance, this is basically almost like an unwritten policy. I mean,
So-
let's face it, an officer pulls somebody over for doing 40 and then 25 and doesn't give them a ticket, so they're not giving them a
That's what
ticket for.
happens.
But I'm saying, I'm not sure there's any difference between that, and nobody seems to object to that.
Yeah.
To put it in simplistic terms, this policy is, if somebody has a drug problem, rather than arrest them, if they're required to get treatment.
No, the police can't, the police can't say that.
That's-
You see,
that's
that's
drug
something
court.
that, right. That's for the
That's all
court.
issued to drug court.
Right.
This is the absolute exercise of discretion, in a uniform manner whenever this is presented to you. The obviously something, a government, a local government, something can further restrict something, but they can't make it more loose. This is making it more loose. Something I think basically, this is. I don't think we have the legal grounds to do this. I think that it's well intended, something, and we need to find ways, something to try and reach out to our citizens, something to come forward. But let me stop for a minute.
Because you said something to me, and you didn't
Oh,
say it here, but about addiction.
addiction.
It's not illegal to be addicted.
Addiction's not a crime. What's that?
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely, I agree.
So basically, what they're saying here is that, us responding to someone who's an addict, we don't have to teeth arrest them anyway.
Just
But
'cause they're an
it's
addict.
almost like a feel-good advertisement piece, something like to get people something to come forward
It-
for help,
it's-
which I'm in favor of.
Well,
It's
Mark,
more
you
than
had-
that.
You had your hand up, and then, Dan, if you would mind, you discussed this at CAP, right?
No, not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Not
Okay,
yet.
I'm sorry. I
I
thought,
didn't bring it up because I didn't know.
I
what it
thought
was.
at this point that CAP had asked you to bring this forward. I'm sorry.
No,
I
no,
mean,
it's
It's
that
longer,
far,
it's
because
probably
it
a whole
went
page
to-
worth of policy.
But
So
Chief,
then-
this is what my opinion would be.
Right.
It's more than a feel good. Is what we were saying is, if you are somebody that's addicted,
Right.
let's make sure that we put him in some sort of a rehab or ask.
If they elect it, it's like an alcoholic. You have to
Nothing
want
for
it.
No,
You have to
not
elect
that,
it, right.
somebody that's addicted,
Hmm?
let's encourage them
I agree.
to get into a rehab program
For help.
as a condition of release or something like that. Not that we charge them, no, but somehow encourage them. I think that that's
Well,
so
so that-
important.
what you're talking about is a resolution, using your word, to encourage
Yes.
people with a problem, and maybe
Encourage the
somehow we
police.
encompass in that when the police are aware of, that they should do what they can to direct these people or encourage them. I mean, I'm not, once again, what are the legalities here? We obviously, nobody here is in favor of addiction.
Mhm.
We'd all like to get whatever people are addicted in this community, and we can't turn our backs on the fact that our young people have this problem. They have, not only young people, but so.
Lots of people.
Is there something that we can do as a governing body and as a law enforcement agency to promote? I guess the word would be promote getting
encourage.
treatment.
Advertising campaigns, yes. I don't know if this is exactly is what is suited for us. But what I want to do now, I spoke to Bill, and Bill and I actually something we agreed together. And I've also reached out to Mark Fierro, actually the criminal prosecutor of the town. He thinks it's a good policy. It's a good practice. What I want to do is I want to actually speak to Prosecutor Graywall of the acting prosecutor of the county, something to see if is this legal.
What is the practice? You say it's a good practice. What is the practice? Just writing something down, or are we actually?
Well, no. To adopt a policy and a resolution. I don't.
What exactly would the policy and the resolution say?
But
In terms of,
here's let me answer. I'm jumping ahead of you and I interrupt you. I'm sorry, but the problem with the way this is written is that it suggests that that if someone who's not the addicted person communicates to the police that my brother, my child, my spouse is an addict, it suggests that the police follow-up to that will not result in an arrest. It says, and here's my problem with it.
It shouldn't.
It's misleading, because as the chief said, it's not a crime to be addicted, but it is a crime to possess, illegal drug control, dangerous substances. So this is how it reads. It says, individuals who advise Franklin Lakes Police Department that they are addicted to opiates and need help will not be charged with a crime or prosecuted, but will instead be referred to the appropriate drug counseling and addiction recovery services. Well, first of all, it's not a crime to be addicted.
So could not be charged.
But then read the rest of it. It says, if such opiate-dependent individuals are referred to us by parents, children, spouses, guardians, or siblings, that we treat it in the same manner as if those individuals had themselves provided the advice to us. But the problem is that the actual policy then says that they won't be arrested. Well, you can't. And that's the whereas. It says, whereas Mayor and Council Borough Franklin Lakes fully endorses policy in the belief that this policy will help foster an environment in which those who are addicted to drugs can seek help without the fear of criminal prosecution. Well, the problem is that if you're in possession of controlled substances, that's a crime.
But why
The
isn't
mayor and
that
council
covered?
can't say that you will be prosecuted for that.
Why isn't that covered by the Overdose Prevention Act?
Oh, that's different.
I wanna add to
But why wouldn't it be covered by that?
I think Franklin Lakes has something, I mean, they should be applauded for what they're trying to do. I just think that there's room for improvement, so that it just
Right.
needs more language.
Well, do you have any idea when this was put into, when this was
This
passed?
very soon.
It would be
It's March 16th, 2016.
Yeah,
like
but
last
Bill-
month.
Bill-
It's too soon to
So
find
my
out if there's any
question,
impact.
why wouldn't it be covered
Well,
under the Overdose Prevention Act?
Well, here you go.
The chief can
Here you
answer
go.
that.
This is, and I provided it to you for your reference purposes. It's a 10-page document or something, but basically, when you go into it, like page 2 talks about, it's comprehensive, something that talks about, well, first of all, it talks about overdose. This is not overdose, this is basically, they're addicted. Being addicted and using it is different than overdose. Now, could you try and play with the interpretation, but it's not an overdose or something.
Well,
And-
I gotta ask you a question, so I don't trap you, I'm trying to ask you a question.
That's fine.
Okay, does the Overdose Prevention Act contemplate a particular time frame?
No.
Like prior to overdose?
It's probably, but a medical professional will tell you an overdose is an overdose. It's something that your body, basically, you're having an adverse reaction to it. But I'm not medically, something,
So
I don't have the credentials to
how would
probably
you
explain that
improve
properly.
it? Because we want to do something like that.
Hold on, let me just finish. The Overdose Prevention Act basically goes on, like page 2 talks about the specific crimes that you will not be, that you're immune to. Yes, I'm sorry, immune from. It's comprehensive, talks about what you're not going to be charged with. It's the
Right,
simple,
I see this here.
simple possession offenses. Then it goes on to say something that what you are not immune from. So, the state act basically something that was very, very careful and basically was very specific in what they were describing.
Right.
This is too loose. Like you're an addict now. We act on this, and now you're in possession. Well, where's the
Why do we
basically
need
the language that
Right.
says that something you're not held, you're not liable, you're immune from that. It doesn't. So you see something. So it's similar to, but it's lacking. And again, something I don't even know if it's legal.
That's
But
my follow-up question for you. As the acting prosecutor Gray Olson, the Franklin Lakes resident,
something I don't know, and that's my next call thing. Something I'm assuming. So, I'm hoping so.
No, it's impossible not to have seen it by now.
You'd be surprised.
By
You'd be
now?
surprised.
I mean,
You'd be
maybe
surprised.
when it
But
was
you know,
done.
but what I think you may see, the state even actually start to go through it because the governor obviously had the foresight to actually put this in place. Prosecutor Molinelli, who's now since gone, wanted to do something similar to this. So you may see it get to this, and then when it's done on the state or county level, it has the proper language with the authorized person now signing off on it. At that juncture, it's a different story. Again, I applaud them for doing this. I'm reluctant at this point in time to dive into this.
Right,
I don't.
right, right.
But
there's
I
really more
would
homework.
agree, and I would say we could spend a lot of time on this. That Dan, you might want to bring this up at the next CAP meeting and ask them, how do they feel about it? But unless there's an attorney in the group,
there
they,
might be actually.
huh?
There might be actually.
If there probably is, but if there isn't, you might run into a situation where, I have to wonder what the borough attorney in Franklin Lakes was thinking about, because, it just doesn't make any sense when they say they will not be charged or prosecuted with a crime. Well, like we've
And-
agreed, addiction is not a crime.
It's not.
Possession is,
Right, and
does that mean if they come to the house, they won't go looking for drugs?
The
That's okay.
probability of an addicted person being under the influence is pretty high. So
Right.
when you happen upon that person, they're probably on something. I just wouldn't want it to mislead them, and all of a sudden saying we're going to give you something amnesty or something, but you really can't because this is not legally binding. So I just wouldn't want to. I want to be fair here.
I think
And-
it puts
and-
our police in a very tenuous position.
And I mean, I keep saying it. I applaud them. He said, but comes to jurisdiction, really, it's within the confines of Franklin Lakes, and you can't offer that outside of your border. I mean, there's a lot more things you have to basically
Right.
address here.
Any other
Yeah,
further comments on this?
But, you know, we can do the same in a way that makes it, we encourage you to do
Absolutely.
something like that.
Absolutely, right.
Yeah, which is
Right.
basically what we wanna say.
I'm of the inclination to push forward on this, even if it forces the issue to be brought to a head by the prosecutor, by the state legislature.
We just don't wanna be sued. Because
Sued
we
by
don't
who?
wanna, we
Sued
don't
by-
wanna incur legal expenses
So,
as a result.
so if I
False
have a
arrest.
kilo, if I have a
False arrest.
brick of heroin,
Right.
and Chief Chamberlain's 2 seconds from arresting me, like, no, I'm addicted.
Well,
Hold on.
that's a great point, because our guys brought that up, it's something that, it doesn't apply because you have to make the contact, or someone has, if we make the contact, you can't say, oh, by the way, it's too late.
Doesn't work
And,
that way.
and
Before
also.
he searches my vehicle, let's say.
But I.
I'm
that's
a
not the-
massive addict,
But
please
but here you go.
take me to the right place.
The immunity is for,
Don't search the car
the
yet.
immunity is for simple possession.
Right.
Simple possession, being under the influence, it's for small amounts,
But
or
if-
paraphernalia.
right,
If
there's
it's
that
for
loophole
dealing,
where the
you're
legality-
not immune.
Right.
I think what we should do,
Legalities
kind of
is
like
the
what
problem.
Max said, we should do a resolution and Mark to a certain degree, encouraging people that have addiction problems to seek,
To come forward
to
and
come
seek help.
forward, and that if they come forward on their own volition.
Stigma-free.
That, yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah.
the stigma-free thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think we should mention anything about not arresting them,
Or
because
amnesty.
we're not going to, or amnesty, because
Yeah.
we're not gonna arrest somebody if they walk in and say, or call and say, well, I've got an addiction problem, they're not breaking the law.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you go to the house, or you stop them in a car, and there's something in plain sight, what are you gonna do?
Well, that's like one of my problems where if it suggests, in fact, I'm reading the policy here. In other words, the Franklin Lakes Police Department will provide whatever help it can to addicts who themselves seek help or for whom help is sought by other persons, such as parents, siblings, spouses, children, etc. Under those circumstances, the addicts will not be arrested and brought through the criminal justice system. Well, wait a minute. If I report, my brother is an addict and he doesn't listen to me and he has a problem, by the way, he doesn't. But and the police go to his house and they find drugs. Can I say, well, wait a minute, hold it. You said if I reported him and said he had a
I
problem,
don't-
you are going to arrest
I
him.
don't-
Well, what are you talking about? He had a kilo of.
I don't think this amnesty or non-arrest really should play a role in
It
it.
shouldn't.
But the first question is, are you prepared, is the department prepared to give direction and guidance to addicts? They say, well, we'll help you see,
Yes, we are.
Because-
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
Does that incur
And I'll tell
liability
you
if
right
you-
now, we would love to do something, an education campaign or something for people to come forward. We need that. We know we need that. I'm not terribly not in favor of it. I just see the legal problems. But I do think that we should, as a town, something with the cap, something actually.
Well, why don't you?
We should do more.
Why don't you write something up and run it by Bill, and see if we can come up with something that has a sense of caring about it, but at the same time doesn't really put us in a legal bind.
Mhm.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Like a gun buyback program, is
Right.
there if you find some drugs in your home type of program where you can bring them in, they're discarded safely? Like,
Well,
let's say you're.
people can bring them into obviously our police station, nice, and then drop them in the drug drop box. But you mean, are they allowed to transport illegal drugs from a house to the drop box? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
like-
If
Let's
somebody
say
comes in
a
and says,
parent
this
finds-
is my kid's marijuana stash.
Right.
I want it out of the house. Are you gonna arrest them?
Honestly,
for-
they're best giving us a
Call
call
them
and
up.
having us go get that, because I wouldn't want them to risk driving
'Cause
there
it
and then
happens-
coming out with that.
it
excuse.
happens-
It's a question of privacy. If they come in, they don't want you to know that he's just putting in the drop box.
There are no questions asked with that. We don't ask anyone anything, we don't take names, we don't see what the drugs are. People are free to drop off anything they want.
I understand, but if they call you and say, hey, chief, come over here, I'm Max Bosch, and my
Right.
kid said, all of a sudden, there is a whole record of this transaction.
That's true.
I don't want
Versus
the
dropping
mailbox,
it.
I don't want the
That's
mailbox
true.
in the lobby to stink of marijuana.
You know,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm sure some parents do something discarded on their own, something that, and they don't want to involve with, they don't
That's
want their
true.
child to have it.
That's
Something-
true.
There's a
But
couple
then
different
there's
ways.
that, because I went to one of the prosecutor's programs, and a parent afterward literally just pulled out all the drugs he found in his kid's room
That's not good.
in front of the prosecutor.
And
What's
something,
the situation there?
the intent was good, somebody, they had gotten stopped on the way to the meeting.
That's
They were
what I mean.
arrested, and
That's-
it's a
that's-
story we're not gonna believe,
Right,
unfortunately, so.
Just a handful.
Well,
What are
then maybe
these?
one clause in this resolution can be that the police are willing to, you know, if you have some illegal substances that you want to dispose of, you call the police, they will come and take them away, and or something like that. I don't know, how do you do that?
See, here's the problem, something like the Overdose Prevention Act, is talking somehow, certain things can be overlooked, but distribution cannot be, so if there's a large amount of drugs, we can't overlook that, we have to do an investigation, where'd you get that, and who's the possessor, and that opens another can of worms.
That actually happened in Maywood Cliffs recently.
Yeah.
Mom had no idea what kind of package came in, and it was a kid's drugs. A large amount, like a FedEx box full of drugs. She had no idea, she said. This is suspicious.
I just ordered it.
You know, so I mean, but I recognize, I applaud you folks, for wanting me to look into something. This is the starting point. It's something we do have to do
Yeah.
better.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, something, and then maybe from this point on, we'll try
And
to
it's
build
important
something.
for the community to know that we're here to help
Right.
rather than to harass them and hinder them and all the. Once they know that, there might be some communication, something that it's going to go.
I agree.
Dan, I got an email from CAP today. I don't know if it went to everybody. I haven't had really a chance to, about an event they're going to have with some sort of contest in the schools. About
Poster contest.
I'm sorry?
Poster contest.
Poster contest. I mean, I think CAP is a great vehicle
Yes, it is.
for, you know, these programs that go into the schools. I think by far this is probably the most effective way of, you know, a number of years ago, I don't know if you were witness to it, there was a guy, a former football player, played for the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost his career and just about everything to drugs, and he came in and spoke to the high school students about, you know, these are the programs that I think really make a difference. So I don't know. Why don't you see if it's possible to come up with something that makes, you know, that puts us in a good position.
If you're meeting with the prosecutor, will probably be the most forward motion or momentum carrying
Right,
meeting,
right.
because if the county knows a bigger resolution, you know what I mean? Like doing a local one, Franklin Lakes doesn't have a lot of impact, whereas a county from the prosecutor might the resolution or the language would be more refined. It'll be in line with the state law. It'll just be more
Legally binding.
right.
Yeah.
There might be a
The
better
department's in
program.
favor of something of discretion, it's just something I don't want to mislead people and think we
Right,
can give it to you
right.
when we can't. I just don't want to expose the borough to any
Well,
liability.
that's very important. That's why I don't necessarily feel that resolution was totally well thought out. I think that there's a lot of space in there that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Room for improvement.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Anything else?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay.
Administrators report.
We have a few new developments. As you know, we had a severe snowstorm in late January. That storm was called Jonas, and subsequent to the storm, a federal disaster declaration was granted, which means that the program is it's now eligible for FEMA reimbursement.
Good.
Okay, so.
Do you know the number off the top of your head?
You mean number?
What it cost us?
Yeah.
Dollars?
Yeah.
No, that's all being pulled together now, because
Okay,
it's
okay.
not just us. I mean, it's not just DPW. It's DPW, it's police,
Right.
it's fire, it's
Gotcha.
TVAC, and the board is doing its own. And this is what Bob Culvert and Captain Dimicato are pulling together.
Gotcha.
And they're gonna be taking the draft materials to the meeting this Friday in Wawa. Okay? We have received an award letter from NJDOT. This was our last year's application for the second part of Jefferson Avenue. And we were pleased to see that even though we've kind of been in this very level $149,000 mode for the past at least almost 5 years, this year we got a little bit more, $155,000. So this will be implemented next year, because as you know, they give you the award letter and then it takes several months to be in line for the receipt of the funds. Okay.
So the intent is to repave the entire street, right?
Now, yes.
From West Clinton all the way up to the Crest Line?
Correct, but we had to do it in two parts. Okay. update on the telephone system update. I don't know if you had a chance to see the letter that was attached from TM Technologies. This is our consultant as well as the Board of Education's consultant that oversaw the bid process and in conjunction with the board attorney conducted the analysis and the award of the bids. So you do have a copy of the bid summary sheet in the package. And there were four.
Can we talk about that?
If you let me.
Yeah.
We are talking about it. There were four bidders, and as you can see, there was variation in prices. The bid itself had several parts to it, so you can't just look at one particular line. They had to compare all of the numbers across the board for each of the base bids plus the alternates. Presidio, the second bidder on the list, was ultimately disqualified, as I advised you, because they didn't have a particular class of certification that was required for dealing with administering school grants. And the successful bidder was Eastern Datacom, which utilizes Assuretel equipment. As part of the process, the other thing that they did was make the formal recommendation with respect to the board as well as the borough. As you know, we had two alternates included in the bid. One was for a combined system with the Board of Education, and the other was for a separate. And as you can see, they're recommending the combined system because of the fact that although there's not a huge difference, it appears, in terms of the cost of equipment, our system would not just be limited to the cost of the equipment. We would actually have to purchase additional things that are not included because they weren't part of the bid specifications. So we would be essentially separated from the Board of Education IT network, which is not the purpose of what we were trying to do.
So is our portion 178,000? Is that what this is telling me here?
Yes. Is it 178 or 176? I believe
Yeah, I can't
it's
tell.
176.
One of those,
yeah.
Well, 176.
Max, did you want to ask?
Yeah.
or add something?
So, at the last conversation we had, we were looking for the town to have around 60 units.
60 units?
That's what I remember, and the price was about $1,500 per set.
Well, no, it was always far more than 60. I think at the time we were talking primarily Borough Hall. But
we have
it's
that with
it's
the
our
engineer
entire
here, or-
complex. Our number of units is 149. And the
149,
board's
okay.
unit, the board's number of units is 740. And given the board's price of $610,000, the per unit cost would be $824. And the borough's 149 units at 176,000 would be 1,100 per unit.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then, and what we would like, if it's possible, we did not have a presentation of the system, and before we go and approve that, we would like the consultant to come and tell us exactly the functionality that they agreed upon.
That's
And-
all in the specifications. I
Yeah.
provided that.
The specifications that were provided were, there was not a list of specific, it was the consultant contract, what they were supposed to do.
No, that, I provided the specs, but I can provide that
Yes,
again.
that
I'll
would
provide
be-
the
that
whole
would be
document.
very
Let's
good.
take a look at those, yeah.
Okay.
That will be very good if we can provide the specs. And, you know, for people that might not be so technically inclined, maybe it would be good for the consultant to come and, in layman's term, kind of tell us what would this system do and why is it so much better than the previous one before we spend the money.
Okay, well, one of the reasons that it's so much better is because, keep in mind, our system is fragmented. We are not connected. When the Borough Hall and Municipal Complex is not connected to the Senior Center, it's not connected to the DPW, we would have a unified system,
Yeah.
which is something we have not had.
Which is okay, but I'm directly concerned about a few things that I would like to talk to the consultant. We have the police department that has very specific issues.
That was all included in the specifications.
I wanna, if you don't mind, I would like to make sure that we understand that and how it is done, how is the redundancy, how it's a failure, and I would like to ask the consultant, not because that's my business.
Okay, I
But
understand.
I just wanna make sure that we.
I just wanna
don't
make
go.
sure that you understand that as part of the process and as part of what the consultant did.
Okay.
The consultant in IT interviewed
Would it
all the
be,
departments.
would it be helpful, Jewel, if Max put his questions in writing?
No, I think providing the specifications, and I don't think it's asking too much for the board to come and give a.
Absolutely.
It was closed Q&A.
It would be both.
Yeah.
They're not gonna send their consultant probably on its own, it'll probably be a representative from the board and the
whatever.
consultant.
That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
exactly.
you want
Q&A, sure.
a post-bid presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. And before that should be before we vote on this.
Okay.
Okay. And
Next.
there were just a few updates, yes. I know Councilman Barzalato and I believe Councilman Bassett also asked about the generators.
Yes.
So this is where we are. The pads have been installed. Basically, the equipment is on order. We expect it here in a couple of weeks, and it will be installed. Now, we have the municipal generator coming in ahead, approximately 3 weeks ahead of the senior center, because we don't really have a good place to store it, so we don't want it to arrive too early. And I think one of the things that Councilman Bassett inquired about, because it did take longer than originally anticipated, and I just wanted to make it clear, there wasn't like a major problem. It was really just a matter of inadequacy of the natural gas source
Yeah.
that's located.
And now it's gonna be a diesel. When is
It's
that
gonna
gonna
be
be
diesel.
installed?
Mid-May.
Now, keep in mind, though, I don't want people to have the wrong impression, that the generator here at the complex, where now everything from the library and the Candlestick and
Correct.
Senior Center up to the police station will be on generated.
Fire department,
The fire department.
everything.
And the senior center, which will have its own generator. In no place amongst those two is there a 24-hour shelter.
That was not approved.
That is not approved. The Red Cross has not approved either the municipal complex or the senior center to be a 24-hour shelter. These are shelters that will be open during the day so people can come and get warm, charge their phones, whatever that has to be done, socialize, but it's not a place where people are going to be
Sleep
able
away.
to sleep and bathe. So, to that extent, we still have some work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the senior people, they not so much concerned about sleeping and bathing and stuff like that, but they concerned that during the emergencies, they should be able to come even at 9 o'clock. Cannot be a 9 to 5 during the emergencies. Has to be some sort of a extending time frame. So if at 6 o'clock they call, they can come and get
Well,
water.
I think once we have these generators in place, I think it would behoove us to make some plans, to make a schedule up,
Yes.
to notify our residents, look, during state emergency where phone service may be questionable, these locations will be available to you, whether, and I don't think a senior cares whether he goes to the senior center or the library, as long as they have a place to go.
Exactly.
So we'll work on that.
That's right, and it has to be an extended period of time where they can come,
Yeah.
come up, charge batteries, and if it has to be.
Keep in mind that each incident is going to be different,
Right.
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
by the virtue
I
of the
think- I
nature of
think
it and the
The
time.
most recent where I saw a good, not shelter, but a warming center was Edgewater Fire. Their hours were, for the fire guys, was 23 days straight for the fire guys.
When you say fire guards, you're talking about the people that lived in that apartment house?
The
Or you're talking
firemen,
about the
I'm sorry,
firemen?
firefighters.
Well, the firefighters have
Yeah.
their own facility. The
Right.
firefighters take care of themselves. They do have the ability to sleep there And in many cases, between them and TVAC, they do sleep there, in cases of
They
emergency.
opened up their
But no,
community
what
center
Max
and-
said is correct. You know, God forbid we have a fire where a large number of people are displaced. Well, we're gonna have to have a place for them to come.
But a good start point would
And,
be
you know,
there, 'cause they
once
got
we
their
get these generators in place, that's only step one. Okay,
They
we
kept
have a
their-
lot of work to
They
do.
kept their community center open for so long.
We're pretty much, I mean, finally, I just wanted you to know
Just a
that
quick
our
question, George.
project is
In fact,
included.
the generators get
Mhm.
to the gas lines, right?
Ours is,
Yeah.
but
Not the seniors.
the seniors is
seniors.
correct.
Okay, Upper Griffin Park.
Yes, we had the, public hearing, and, we are included, the freeholders, I believe, can act on the final, approval 45 days from the date of the public hearing, so,
I'm hoping my grandchildren won't be driving their cars by the time this park is done.
it moves pretty well.
Okay. Let's-
Okay.
That it?
That's it.
Under correspondence, we have a.
We have a question about the engineering report.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Okay, we looked, I looked over here and I
Mhm.
basically looked at all the other stuff that is going over here. I didn't see anything over here about the Summit Street
Five South
demolition.
Well, that's not an authorized project yet.
Okay.
It comes after the ordinance is approved.
All right, so what I would like to do, if we can, the ordinance for demolition or something to be split in two. One for the actual asbestos
You
removal.
can't do that.
You
You can't do that.
Yeah, go
Question
ahead,
first.
go ahead.
When the bid, when it's put out to bid, is it bid in a way that delineates the different steps in the
You
project?
cannot, it has to be a complete project. It's against local public contracts law to break a contract down into
But we-
parts so that you don't qualify for the bid,
What do you
bid
mean,
threshold.
so
We do, don't, we wanna
The
qualify.
no, we do qualify, but you can't, all
Oh, so
the-
that you can
The-
avoid the
the
bidding
threshold.
rules.
Correct.
Oh.
All the
I see.
engineer was showing you
I
was the
see.
pieces of the 40,000. You can't take those pieces and work them separately because that's,
you're avoiding the
you're-
It's
threshold.
avoiding the bid.
It's avoiding the bid
bidding
threshold.
threshold.
Someone submits a bid to us, will we understand what it's costing us for each segment of the bid?
we can write up the specification that way.
Okay, I think that's.
But the bid is gonna be won or
But-
lost by
yeah.
the total price.
Right.
Agreed, but
Right.
I think.
But let me ask a question. We don't wanna avoid the public bidding.
No,
So,
but
wait a second.
what you were asking would avoid it.
No, but, no, listen, I don't wanna avoid the public bidding at all. I wanna encourage it more than anything
So
else.
what you're saying is split it up, and even though the numbers are below the threshold.
Exactly.
You wanna put it out to bid.
Exactly, because-
I don't know what,
Yeah,
No,
because what,
you can't do that.
I don't know, I'm looking at
Why
Lisette
not?
shaking her head no.
why not, we wanna put it out, but basically what we want.
What is the bid threshold now?
40,000.
Okay,
Under
so
local
let-
public contracts law, just, you can't even give the appearance that it's being split.
De-aggregated.
It has to be an aggregate project. You could devise the specifications
Correct.
to not provide a lump sum. You could add,
Right.
you could specify specifications as much as possible, but it cannot, the project cannot be separated, even if that's not the intent, just the appearance.
Okay,
just-
so, but let's just leave it.
So we
because
can't do it.
It's important, it's important.
We can
to
separate it, separate it
Yeah.
into those, we want a breakdown of what each part costs.
The
Exactly, the whole idea
specifications
is
can follow
that the
the
demolition
breakdown.
after the
Right.
abatement of the asbestos should be a common demolition request based on
Well,
state rules.
we've already gone that route, and the engineer said you can't do it that way.
Right.
So.
So let's make the specification so that we see the different numbers.
Each
That's
Right.
all.
And then we go- and we
Ask
go
them
from
to
there.
break it down.
Right.
Yeah, you can see pieces of a project,
Right.
you just can't pretend that it's not a complete
A
project.
complete project,
Okay.
right, you can't break it up. into
Alrighty.
parts.
On to correspondence, we have a thank you from Loretta Weinberg, which is not surprising. She's been one of the leaders in the fight to improve the conditions our commuters are facing. And by the way, it's really an important, we sometimes lose track if we're not commuting by bus. This is a very important issue for our residents because we have a
Very much so.
significant number that commute. And
See you
one of the
next
reasons people move here is they think it's an easy commute until they get on the bus the first day. So hopefully things will get better. It's a short commute, but it's not always the most comfortable commute.
No.
And if the day comes that these two, at least one bus terminal, but the George Washington Bridge bus terminal needs some help as well.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing construction up there.
Yeah, well, renovation, I guess.
Yeah, the renovation's been going on for about a year
So
now.
hopefully, things will get better for our residents that take the bus. And we also have a block party request, which is, normal. We normally approve these unless somebody has a reason to think otherwise. Okay, any question about the resolutions?
One from me.
Okay, under old business, I see Christine Everon is here in case we need any assistance in discussing the Hyler Park sound system update. And we do have from her some correspondence which talks about the latest proposal. It breaks it down by the various pieces of equipment.
And was brought
Any
back
thoughts or
under
comments?
$15,000.
Yes.
He was
Yeah.
brought back on. So the question is, and Dan asked you too, the system as it is right now is gonna be able to accommodate concerts, is gonna be whatever demonstrations, peace marches, and everything else.
No peace marches, I'm
No?
sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Peace marches
Peace
are less
marches.
than, portable.
Anyhow, so,
Or
okay.
demonstrations, we can
Now,
keep the peace marches.
how is this gonna be, now, are we gonna be able to use a concert where we put the chairs, when here? Are they gonna be towards the street? How is that gonna work?
The permanent structure that we're gonna put the speakers in, in the flower bed around the bandstand, 2 facing north, 2 facing west, will be
What's this one?
This way. That's-
North and west is fine.
away
That-
from New York
North,
City.
north and west is good.
North
Away
is the
from the
big area where
Palisades.
people sit for concerts. West faces the Cafe Angelique, and
Okay.
that's where
They're
people
gonna
stand
appreciate
during
the
Memorial
food.
Day. So that covers the park. There's nothing
It covers the
east or
park.
south.
They are sized so they won't get blown out when a band comes in and wants to use them. On those events, like Memorial Day, where we want to have people on Piermont Road, going all the way over to Cookteek, he's included 2 portable 14-foot stands that can be raised. The speakers will be attached to those portable stands. These are the 2 larger speakers, so that sound will go out from 14 feet up, going down to the people standing, so you don't get the echo back from Cookteek.
So the day after Memorial Day,
I like
where do
this.
these speakers get stored somewhere?
Yes,
Where?
So, and stands?
yes.
They get stored somewhere?
Yes,
Well,
these
Max, well,
speakers
there's a
are
place to
this big,
store them.
this
That's not an
big by
issue.
this one. The old bid office perhaps for the next time being.
Well, no, we'll find a place.
Whatever, I don't care.
We'll certainly find a place to.
That's not a storage room.
They're not that big.
And during the concerts, do you have to reinstall them for the concerts facing north?
No, we don't want to disturb the people to the north.
But
very
during
few-
the concerts, usually the people in the park sit north of the
Oh, north,
bandstand.
excuse me, I'm sorry, I was thinking east.
Yeah,
Yes,
we still talk about it.
those in the park,
Those are
those
permanent.
speakers are permanently
Permanent.
mounted. They are the larger of the 2 options. The only thing that we didn't keep from the second proposal was the mixer that would allow people that had multiple mics to plug into the system, or to use our system.
Yeah, and
They can plug their mixer into our system. We're
But-
not
See, I
supplying
can't,
a
Max, I can't.
giant mixer.
I
for
I
them.
can't tell you for sure, but I know the summer concerts, most of the bands bring their own sound equipment
Yeah.
anyway. So I'm not sure that they'll use this. They may, if this
they
equipment, if
have
this is a
already a
superior,
mixer.
if this is a superior system,
Yeah.
it may work that way. But this is primarily for Memorial Day and events that, are, special events, like the holiday parade. and-
The portable 2 speakers,
Right.
but the
The
rest are
portables.
for a lot of events.
No, because the whole idea was to
Nice to
use
meet
them and to have quality speakers and quality
Okay, well,
sound in the park.
I'm just saying that, I'm not gonna say any more. If the council wants to approve this gift, And apparently the
I'm fine with it.
HPC has signed off on it.
Yes,
Do
they, in
you have
fact,
any comments?
I'm just not clear on who administers it, who operates it.
Well,
Yeah.
the gift is ours. You're giving this to
Is
the
that-
borough, correct?
yes, and you have the money, so I think you have, I mean, I can make the phone call.
That's-
Should we
No,
discuss this
so-
offline?
Well,
As long as you propose it?
no, the question is not about the money. The question is, okay, who who decides when to use it? Who decides how it gets set up? I would assume it's the boroughs. So something like Memorial Day, which is an Elks event, the borough will, as they do a lot of preparations for the parade and the festivities at Hyler Park, will also be involved in the sound system. For the holiday parade, which is something that comes out of the recreation office, I would
No,
assume
that
that.
comes from the chamber, actually.
Well,
But the holiday parade is a chamber,
Okay.
not a government
well,
event.
but what I think what Jewel is trying to get at is, who oversees
Who's
this
the sound
equipment, basically?
technician?
Who's the sound technician?
From what I understand of the speakers that are permanently installed, so if you have the Madrigal singers singing for the holiday parade, you're basically flipping a switch on the way the DPW flips on the switch for the electric. I would believe this would be controlled by permit, that you give permission.
Well, all events at the park are by permit.
Right, and at the moment, you have an electric outlet there that can be flipped on for events. This is
Christine,
not anything.
somebody, you have a mixer over there, sure, you have two basic mics. You have some sort of a wiring connecting this one to the speakers. Somebody should have like the knowledge to be able to connect them and put it all together to give it to Mr. Barzalato to say happy birthday.
It's all in that cabinet right there.
It is in a cabinet, but who knows how to connect and where to connect? That's gonna be the question.
Well,
For every event.
I think the
Yeah.
question is basically, what I'm hearing is you don't require a lot of training to use this system. It's rather simplistic. Okay, so I would assume that over time, the people involved, whether it's Matt Mercurio at Recreation, whether it's, I get involved in the concerts, or whether it's, even if it's one of Bob Culvert's guys setting up, that it isn't something that's going to require rocket science.
That is my understanding.
Okay?
And, yeah.
I guess, I don't mean to put a kibosh on it. I think it's a lot of money for something that, I would rather put it on towards permanent landscaping in the park, but this is the decision.
Next fundraiser.
This is the decision we've come to, so, okay, let's move on.
All right, then we have to approve it?
Well, what's the
Is that
process
we
for
have
this?
to approve it or what's the?
Well, we have to-
Typically, we have to do a resolution
Accepting the gift, okay, and allowing them to install it. And remind Mr. DeBello, or whoever's going to do the installation, that he is to work through our DPW. Let them know when he's coming, what he's doing.
I will discuss with Julie exactly how she wants us to do that.
Okay, fine.
And when you do dispose in that stand,
Okay.
then I've talked to the historical committee.
No, we have no holes in the bandstand.
Any old business, new business, or for the good of the order? I do have one thing for the good of the order, but I'll yield the floor first to anybody else that has anything. Okay, I'm not advocating for something, I'm just throwing something out there for you to think about and maybe to give me your opinion on it. We have before us on the planning board an application for a subdivision up on Peter Linus Court. Peter Linus Court is a cul-de-sac off of Hudson Avenue. What that means is very few people travel that street. There's about a dozen homes there, and those dozen families travel that street. On that street is a property that's, there's an application for a subdivision. One of the parts of that subdivision is there's a house on that has historical value. Once again, not to get into a discussion similar to 53 Knickerbocker, it has not been declared historic, despite the fact that it was owned and is owned for many years by the former chair of the HPC. It was one time a barn. Now it's a home that has been improved in many ways. The house is rather unique, and I think if you went to see it, which I would ask you to do, you'd probably say it's kind of a neat house. It would be nice to say, but like 53 Knickerbocker, what is also nice about it is the property. The property is gorgeous. If the property is subdivided according as the applicant would like, the part of the property that's open space now will become another house. So my question to this body is, we have open space money. Is this something that we would want to consider purchasing with our open space money just to keep the property the way it is? Now, you say, well, there's a house there, what are we going to do with the house? Well, technically, there could be a subdivision. The house could be on one if the way they want to subdivide it now is the house would occupy about 25%. Is it roughly 25% of the property?
About 25%.
And the other 75% of the property would be property that could be sold to the developer to save the house. Well, instead of selling it to the developer, we could buy it and keep it as open space. And if you went up there, you'd see it's a really pretty piece of property, worthy of maybe a passive park. You put a few picnic tables there. It's not a place where you'd want a soccer field or, a jungle gym. But the bigger picture, the bigger question is this something we'd want to spend open
Yes.
space money on?
Why don't we take a look and see whatever that, because it's absolutely.
You turn onto Peter Linus Court. If you go up the hill, it's a left onto Peter Linus Court, and it's about 3 doors down, and you'll see there's an open space, and then in the back on the right is a very unusual, actually 2 buildings. One is a garage type building. The other is what used to be a barn. Doesn't look like a barn anymore. But take a look at it, Mark. You've been there, and you're on the planning board.
As the mayor said, it's on the planning board. So as a planning board member, I wanted to take a look at the property. So I would encourage the council members to go take a look at it. When you're staring at the property, the house to be saved is off in the rear right corner, and then you have the property in front of it, which is like a wide open vista.
And it's Peter Linus Court.
19 Peter Linus Court. Tone?
I don't know, I'm sort of like leaning that we start saving our open space for the senior center. Use the monies for that, and not be
Well,
putting it off for something else.
But there was a question, this was brought up before by the historical committee. And if I remember right, there was a question about there are some variances required for this subdivision.
So just to give you a general
Yeah.
here.
I don't want to go and start creating new variances just.
Well, they're not new variances, so the applicant, the property is about 150 feet wide. It's
Okay.
zoned for 150 foot frontage, and they essentially want to take.
100 foot frontage.
100 foot frontage, right? They want to have 75 feet or so for one lot and 100 feet for the other lot. So they're gonna need variances to create that smaller lot.
So the 75 feet is going to be the one that requires, and that's the one with the
Both
house.
of them.
That's
both
correct.
of both of them
They
would
both
be-
require variance, both lots will require variance.
The
Okay.
numbers are a little askew here, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the general
For this
picture is right.
purpose, that's, so you can't by right subdivide that property in half, you need variances to do it.
Well, we'll take a
Well,
look.
we
take
have
a
been
look.
talking about for a number of years now, how to spend open space money. Of course, one of the things about the location is here is who would benefit from it, because it's way out of the way. But take a look
Yeah.
at it, and we'll have this for a future
Yeah, we'll have
discussion.
another-
You, new business or old business?
Yeah, I have
Or
one
do-
one other thing.
Then I'll go.
And,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
I just want to pass along to you for your view. This is a picture of what the Stop and Shop is going to look like when it's done. There's actually 2 of them. One has towers on each end. That right now is up in the air, pardon the pun, because the tower closest to River Edge Road is less than 10 feet away from high tension wires. So there's a question as to whether or not they're going to be able to build that. I would guess most likely they won't. But in any case, the property will look like this, which is a vast improvement. It looks like a lot of the
I
Stop
think
and
they
Shops.
started framing today.
Why don't
Yes.
they, seriously, why don't they close the damn place now?
Well, they are gonna,
No, close it now, because right now it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Because people go in there, the shelves are half-baked filled, and really, it's a mess. Somebody's gonna get hurt. I don't understand that
Well,
concept. Just
nobody's
close the whole
gonna,
goddamn
nobody's
place.
gonna get hurt because the shelves are half empty.
No,
But-
because the construction going on, really, Peter, I mean, it's.
Well, Tony,
I
I'm
know
not
that.
I'm not the inspector.
It's
No,
ridiculous.
but Tony, I think that it's unrealistic.
They're gonna
to
be
take
closed for
somebody
6
out of
weeks,
business-
probably.
To take somebody out
They
of
will
business
probably
for an
close
extended
some.
period of time.
They're closed they're closing on Thursday, April the 14th. And
For
they'll
how
be
long?
closed for at least a month to 6 weeks, while they renovate the inside of the store.
Oh, you're photographing the secret
That's what they did in
plans?
Oh, that's secret?
The Russians are coming?
They're not-
The
No, they're
Russians
not.
are coming again?
Christine, if you like, I'll give it to you when you can look at it.
For my purposes, that's perfect.
Okay, that's it for me. Tony, you had something?
I don't know if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, fire department requested permission for the parade, and I guess it had to be a resolution?
No.
Is it?
Okay.
No resolution, they have permission.
No, we asked Tony to do something. We asked Tony to do the breakout of the cost or so, and I'm not remembering.
Well, that's
Oh,
right,
yeah, no, that's-
we
we
allocated certain money, I
Right,
think
$10,000.
$10,000.
Correct.
We just wanna know how it's gonna be
You'll-
spent.
Correct. I'm
Yeah, how
getting
much
that-
goes
I'm
into
getting
your
that
pocket,
this
how
week.
much goes into-
But as far as can the fire department get something in writing saying that that the parade is approved to?
They will when the budget's adopted.
You mean that this?
No, forget about the 10,000. Just a concept that the parade is okay to proceed.
All right, yeah.
That's all I'm asking for.
Can
I'm
we
not-
put something on the public meeting next week approving the parade?
The resident.
Only because, listen, this is what they gotta do. They have to go for permits now to the Board of Education, because we're gonna start using their properties and such, so we gotta make sure everything's, just formality wise, that's all.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Anything else? I'll tell you, what are we gonna do, do I
Do we
just?
have to go inside? to do
No,
this?
we're gonna
No.
stay
We'll do it right
here.
here.
So, I'll close the work session.
Need a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank
Yes.
you. So I gotta read Open Public Meetings Act again?
Yes, because it references the sunshine notice that's in this meeting.
Okay. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year confirmed at the annual meeting are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, which is what was done for this meeting.
On April
Right,
1st.
and notice of this meeting.
Notice of this meeting by the April 1st, 2016 Sunshine Notice has been sent to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and it's been posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center. I have it here. Okay, so,
The only thing on the agenda is the consent agenda, so I just need a motion and a second to approve resolution 16-137 for the raffle application number.
I'll entertain a
11.
motion to approve resolution 16-137. Second? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Zinn?
Yes.
Just for the members of the public, this is was a timing issue. The Englewood Hospital wants to do a lottery or a 50-50, I would assume, something like that.
It was
A raffle.
merchandise.
A raffle, and the timing perspective of it for their event, they need to get it down to Newark to get it approved tomorrow, by no later than tomorrow. And in order to do that, we have to have a public meeting, so that's why we did that. And that concludes our open session for tonight. We're going to go into closed session as soon as Bill reads thank you everybody for coming, and have a safe trip home.
Resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, Mayor and Council, Borough of Tenafly will go into closed executive session, discuss the following matters. The first two are attorney-client privilege matters, one concerning our code enforcement official in the complaint. Second is a matter concerning potential property acquisition and proposal development. We have personnel matter concerning senior center staffing, and finally, collective bargaining matter, just PBA grievance. News we take in the meeting. At least, the time the matters are resolved after this closed executive session, the mayor and council will reconvene in this Christie Wilson Committee room to adjourn this public meeting.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Good to see you up and
Motion.
around.
Motion.
So moved.
Still sore.
So moved.
Tony second.